on film.
Adam will probably join later. He has kids now, so he's like all busy. But, we're talking Dead Man, 1995, directed by Jim Jarmusch. We got special guest David Lambert. You're a Western expert. You seem to know everything about every Western.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that. There's definitely probably blind spots here and there, but I love every, I love every era like of the genre, whether it's, the silence up until now. I'm not big on like B westerns or like the real cheap ones
The
from like
70s Westerns.
no, like the 30s ones with like
Oh,
Hopalong
yeah.
casting type stuff, or like the singing cowboy stuff. I don't really care
What
about that.
about 80s and 90s comedy Westerns? Like Rustler's Rhapsody or Lightning Jack?
I have not seen Lightning Jack.
What? Paul Hogan?
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Holy shit, dude.
But not big on that. Really not big on comedy westerns too much. I like humor in my westerns, but yeah, I'm not like, putting on Son of Paleface or something all the time or whatever. Not that I dislike them, but
For kids.
yeah, it's not my thing.
Yeah,
And
when I was a
Cowboy,
kid, I would watch like Lightning Jack or the Cherokee Kid with Sinbad on
yes,
TV.
yeah.
Garbage. It's
Uh,
garbage, but it's, when you're a kid, you just watch everything and you're so amazed. Like for me, this is crazy. Like the the most like the movie that had like the biggest effect on me was when I was 11 years old. My parents put a TV in my room, so I would watch the same movies every night on cable. And I remember watching Posse with Mario Van Peebles. And it's with that movie, I watched it 4 times. And I remember like I was 11 years old. And I remember on the fourth time realizing like everything they said at the beginning paid off at the end. It was like the first time I realized like a movie could have character arcs. And it's this movie that now I tried to watch like 2 years ago. It was like almost unwatchable.
yeah, I can't say that I'm a fan of Posse too much.
Have you ever seen that, Mike?
No, I can't think of what movie that is, but I was just thinking a Western with Mario Van Peebles sounds like a funny premise.
It's very
Yeah,
urban. It's very like 90s. Like it's kind of before Django and Chain. It's kind of like a blaxploitation Western.
No, I have not seen this movie. When I was a kid, I mean, I watched all the John Wayne classics, Searchers, Stagecoach, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance with my dad mainly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember too much of these 80s and 90s comedies, cowboy movies, maybe like Wild Wild West or something.
For me, the big Western when I was a kid in the 90s was Tombstone. I was like 9. That was like, oh, Westerns are actually kind of cool. But I never really watched any John Wayne when I was that young until I was
yeah,
older.
I remember Tombstone being big and talked about, and I remember watching it when I first started getting into westerns, and it had been so hyped for me. I the first time I saw it, I hated Tombstone, to be honest, but I've grown appreciation for it. I still think it doesn't really quite work, but there's things about it that are great.
What about
Yeah.
Unforgiven? I remember Unforgiven was very popular when we were kids.
That was a similar situation where it had been so hyped, and then when I finally watched it, I was like, oh, it was so, uh, yeah, it was just too slow for me, and
Mhm.
I was expecting a badass, Clint Eastwood movie, but of course that is also grown in my estimation. So one of my probably longest threads on Twitter, which I have not finished, is a huge breakdown of Unforgiven, all of its influences and everything, and also just because I do love the movie, but I don't like the way it's talked about as if it's like a corrective to the Western, or like it's the first Western to take violence seriously or anything like that. It's like, uh, you know, uh, I essentially break down every aspect of the movie and talk about the westerns that had already been doing all that same stuff.
Yeah, that was the thing too with like Pulp Fiction. People were like, we've never seen a movie like this before. In the it's something about the 90s where I think you didn't have access to old movies the way you do now. And critics were really just in the mind space of like what's like current, and they didn't really talk about. So when something like Pulp Fiction came out, they're just like, wow, this is crazy. It's out of order. No one's ever done this before. This is the first time it's ever happened. So it's the 90s were a weird time. This movie, now Dead Man, Roger Ebert gave it 1.5 stars. He said it was really slow and repetitive and boring. And he said the music by Neil Young sounded like a guy dropping his guitar on the floor.
Way, it's really good. Neil Young's a genius.
He's got it right. He's got it right. Hey, sorry I'm late.
It's slow,
hey, Dave.
but whatever.
Is that
How you doing, dude? Sorry I'm late. That's not a good first impression, but hey. What are you gonna do?
It's only been a few minutes. We haven't said anything of value yet.
Adam,
that's about to
true.
change.
I'm kidding.
Adam, you're late, but your podcasting spot has already been filled, so you have to get out of here.
Oh no.
That's part of the plot of Dead Man.
Oh right. Very good. Very good.
Johnny Depp. This movie's cool as hell. I don't know why Roger Ebert was like, this is stupid. I mean, I think this movie threads a needle or balances on a razor's edge or something of like being absurd and stupid, but also being like poignant and actually emotionally affecting in its own weird way. Like, I like that it doesn't take everything so seriously.
Yeah. That's the balance I like to walk in my life.
It's also
Stupid,
like it
but
works.
emotional.
It's like the point of the movie. It's like clearly, come on, like what's your problem,
totally.
Ebert?
Yeah,
I feel like
I
go ahead,
feel
Dave.
like he was so baffled by like I don't know what he's getting at. It's like I don't know. I think the movie is oftentimes kind of obvious in certain ways. So I like the movie a lot. At the same time, I do find it a little obnoxious in some ways too. But that's part of it. I mean, that's Jim Jarmusch, right?
I like this movie because I feel like it's the closest Western that we'll ever get to that one episode of The Simpsons when Homer eats the pepper and meets the coyote. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
The fire pepper. What was it called?
I remember when I was getting into Westerns, I was like, I wanted to find a Western that was like that like
You
that
love that. Hold on, you love that Simpsons episode, and you have talked about it numerous times to me. Like it's
it's cool. It's like a soul journey thing.
It's a good
like he's got a
episode.
spirit guide and stuff, and it's like, but like, and I was like, what are the Westerns that this is like pulling from? And I honestly couldn't even find any. You're like a Western guy.
Did John Wayne ever take some peyote chili and get fucked up and see his wife's head?
No, I can't. I don't think so.
Unable to see her face as he walked in a circle, and Johnny Cash was a coyote. Come on, you know it all, David.
No, I don't believe so. I mean, of course, there's El Topo, which is I would say is also very, very much part of that. But who is it? Jonathan Rosenbaum, who coined the term acid westerns.
He's the Village Voice critic, right?
He's a well-known critic. I don't really read a whole lot of critics, but I did
Chicago
read
film or Chicago Reader. Never mind.
Yeah. But I did read his book on Dead Man. So,
really? He wrote a book about it. This movie?
Yes, yeah.
One movie, one book, one movie.
Yes, it's not like a huge tome, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he like regards it as like I don't like one of the best films of the 90s. Like he's
That's cool.
It's a decent book. I didn't it has some good info in it.
That's cool.
He probably is a big Jim Jarmusch fan, I imagine.
Yeah, I think he actually knew him in the 80s, although I think had given some negative reviews to some of his earlier stuff, or he didn't think some of his earlier stuff worked quite as well. So
That's when you got to
movie-
write a book about how great a movie is. When you're like, I'm sorry.
yeah,
yeah. Well, Ebert hated David Lynch movies until Mulholland Drive, and then he was like, "Oh, this works. This is like everything you fucked up in Lost Highway and Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me. Those suck, but this one's good." So
Maybe because Mulholland Drive has like emotion, real emotion and stuff. You know what I mean? Like pathos. I bet you that's why. That's
it
my
has a lot of absurd, stupid shit
guess.
too. I
Of
mean, with
course.
the
That's what I'm
cowboy.
saying. Yeah, but
there's
you don't have
lots
like
of
Bill
and there's
Pullman
lots.
like being like cool and stuff. You have like Naomi Watts like being like a very emotionally raw.
I
I'm just
mean,
guessing.
Sure.
Sure, this
I think Blue Velvet's better, but I mean, it's Ebert. Yeah, it just like it worked for him. So, but the thing with Dead Man, the movie that this really reminds me of, and I kept thinking about, was Eraserhead. Like the way in Eraserhead, his life is just shitty and gets shittier, and there's this like absurd deadpan feel to everything that happens, and then
like an
of course,
absurdity with how shitty things are getting.
yeah, and just that
Yeah.
passivity of the lead character, just the way he passively takes it. And also there's a thing too, like I did a thread on Twitter where I said, like, let's name movies of people getting like having like awful events happen to them the whole time, like Eraserhead or The Tenant or Beau's Afraid.
Mm.
And people were saying like After Hours
Mm.
and Eyes Wide Shut. And the thing that, and Dead Man, I didn't say Dead Man, but it was obviously the catalyst for this. The thing all these movies have in common is a guy tries to fuck, and then that's like he's like
Ruins
punished.
his life. Yeah.
It like ruins his life, and it causes these like chain of events. Same thing with like I said After Hours, right? Like it just has this thing where you're now trapped and you just can't get out. And it's a very funny idea, and it just seems to be it's the only thing that seems to work for this. Like I don't know if a guy had a different desire, if it would work as well. There's something funny about the way Johnny Depp, meets this girl, the town and everything machine's not going well, and then just Gabriel Byrne comes in and like ruins everything.
He wants to fuck, but at the same time he's so passive that like it's not like you even feel like a great desire. It's more just like I guess she wants to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like a nice bed, and it's like he has nowhere to stay. Like, what's he gonna do?
I was thinking like, damn, she just immediately like brings him into her room. You know what I mean? After he like helps her up or whatever. But that's like a passive, like if he's being like super passive, she like leads him. That's like part of the absurdity. She like leads him into this room. It's like you don't have to do anything. He didn't even stand up to the guy who like pushed her. He like waited for him to leave. She brings him into his room. He feels like he's gonna fuck. Then like the worst thing happens where this guy comes in and shoots her. You know
Both
what I mean?
of them. Shoots both of them.
We've all been
Yeah,
there, right, fellas? You're
Yeah.
about to fuck, and then the lady gets shot, and then you are shot. Just kidding. All right, go ahead.
I never had that experience, but we in high school, Mike and I, we invited a girl. Like a girl was over at Mike's house, and we were just friends. But remember, her boyfriend was outside, Mike, just like revving the engine of his car, like burning rubber.
Jesus Christ! Oh yeah. Was that Lindsay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're just smoking weed. Like we're not.
Yeah.
That's a hilarious thing to do. If you think there's two guys fucking your girlfriend, just be like, I'm really mad.
Just wait till you get out here.
And then you like blow your tire out and stuff.
But I like
he seemed like a chill guy.
But before
That's
that,
cool.
there's that scene with like Johnny. The movie starts with Johnny Depp. He's sitting on a train, and then he's like asleep and waking up, and he keeps seeing the people on the train replaced with more frontier looking people, and you get the sense of this like journey, you know, and it has this very nice rhythm. And Crispin Glover comes out, and he's covered in soot, fully covered in soot and coal. But he sets up the whole movie. He like talks. I feel like what he's talking about with like the landscape and the boat, that's the ending of the movie.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Foreshadowing.
good. Good job.
Yeah, I've seen this movie more than once, so
Holy crap. That's
that's
awesome.
the kind of shit you realize, you know. The first time I saw this movie, I had no idea where it was going, but when you watch it the second time, you're like, oh, right, he's dead man. He's gonna die.
Oh, I get it now. Yeah.
So
Got the
do
skull face and
any of you
everything
guys-
during the hallucination. He's
Sorry.
dead.
Yeah, that's cool.
do any of you guys know the like origin of this movie, like how it kind of developed?
No, none of us read the book about this one movie.
No,
But so please talk.
the book doesn't get into it either.
Oh, okay. You're gonna know way more about this movie
just
than
said-
any of us. So
Yeah, I think you mentioned it was co-written by someone else, but it just says written by Jim Jarmusch. I was
Yeah.
curious about this.
So Rudy Wurlitzer, who wrote Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Two Lane Blacktop, and then and later like Walker and stuff, and he was a novelist who became a screenwriter. In the late 70s, he'd written a script called Zebulon, and it's about a mountain man. And I'll get into just a little bit of what happens in Zebulon. But at first, it was going to be made by Peckinpah in the 70s, and then that never happened. Then Hal Ashby wanted to make it, and then later Alex Cox wanted to make it, and he had a like a spoken like commitment by Richard Gere, which I think is terrible casting for Mountain Man, but whatever. But then Richard Gere dropped out, and that fell apart. And then
Is this like young Richard Gere, like Days of Heaven?
this is
American Gigolo?
the 80s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like instead of like hunting buffalo or whatever, he's just like got his rifle pointed at a bunch of gerbils. You know what I'm saying?
It's not a
go
rifle,
ahead.
it's his ass. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got his ass pointed.
But,
Hunting with his ass. All right, go ahead.
These are like allegations that are unproven.
Yes, of course. Who started that? Somebody started that.
but eventually, Sylvester Stallone claimed that he started that rumor.
Oh, yes, thank you.
He takes a lot of credit for other people's work, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it was me.
So then Rudy Wurlitzer met Jim Jarmusch on a movie called Candy Mountain, which I've never seen. But I guess Jim Jarmusch had a cameo, but that got cut. And
Yeah, Rocket's Red Glares in that movie. That's like also a movie about a guy on a journey. It's like an indie film.
Yeah. So then Rudy Wurlitzer starts, Jim Jarmusch becomes interested in potentially directing Zebulon, and they kind of worked on the project, and then they had their differences and went their separate ways. So Jim Jarmusch helped himself to a ton of stuff from the script Zebulon, so much so that Wurlitzer would never be able to get it made without people thinking that he'd ripped off Dead Man. So in Zebulon, this mountain man, eventually he gets shot in the heart, and he is then considered a dead man, and he's between these two worlds, right? And he's in the West, encountering all these people. He's getting chased by bounty hunters. He's killing a lot of people on the way there because he's trying to get back to his family. And then eventually it ends with him floating out to sea as a dead man on a canoe. And there's other stuff to it, but basically the premise is lifted wholesale from Zebulon. Um,
All right.
And
Yeah.
but the name Dead Man, I mean, it's the perfect name for a movie like this. But you
So
know,
it's not. So he didn't really steal it or rip
he
off
made
the
it.
idea.
But I was gonna say, like, this movie also was like box office poison, and like if you look on Wikipedia, it says like budget 9 million, box office 1 million. So even
Ooh.
with like Johnny Depp and all these stars in the movie, it's still really not. It's still not very commercial. Black and
Yeah.
white in the 90s is just
Black and
like,
white. It also like I've seen it twice, and like it has like a 90s indie film festival movie vibe about it. You know what I mean? Um where it's
well, he don't forget
like
Jim Jarmusch is so important for that feel too.
of
Like
course.
it's like
But
he's the guy.
it's like an IFC
Hell
movie
yeah.
that is like
IFC channel.
none of those movies made money, you know? So yeah, like it has like a patience and stuff, which you gotta like if that's like his vision, that's what he wanted to make, you gotta like hand it to him because that's like not as commercial as the movie could like it has all these like very slow dissolves. Sometimes it dissolves and then it dissolves back and it's the same fucking shot. It's a shot of Johnny Depp's face. So and like doing in the same spot and stuff. So and it's got like this weird Neil Young score and stuff. But it's good. I think it is a good movie. But yeah, I
Yeah.
get why it's not like it doesn't put asses in the seats, a movie about like the
I think
soul burning to death.
maybe it got international sales just because Johnny Depp's in it. You can like release it in Russia or something. But it's
yeah, I think Jarmusch felt that Harvey Weinstein had buried it, and I don't know if it was because Jarmusch has like final cut and he would not cut anything out of it or something, but he basically felt that Weinstein buried it.
That's like the
Uh,
worst thing I've ever heard that Weinstein
yeah,
ever
yeah, I
did.
know. So much to look into that, guys. He seems like a bad character. But
Yeah.
the other thing is John Lurie, the actor, musician kind of guy, the Fishing with John guy.
Yeah, yeah.
He had sent in 1991. He'd sent a script to Jim Jarmusch called "You Stink, Mister," and it was a
Awesome thing.
comedic surrealist western of. It was going to star Roberto Benigni as an Italian cowboy who's like has these surreal adventures in the West, and then eventually I think he challenges Buffalo Bill to like a cowboy contest and wins. Um, and Lurie said, yeah, he sent it to Jarmusch to just he was going to direct it himself to take a look at it and give him any pointers or anything. Didn't hear anything back. And then saw Dead Man. Jarmusch had just lifted a bunch of shit from that one too. I've never read that script, but I've read Zebulon. And Wurlitzer later turned Zebulon into a novel called Drop Edge of Yonder. So, but this movie was originally called Ghost Dog. And
oh
then, yeah.
Jarmusch is ripping off his own movie,
Plus-
another movie that he also made. That's annoying.
Ghost Dog.
Oh my God.
Ghost Dog is taking from like Samurai and Branded to Kill and that other movie he made, Limits of Control. Paz de la Huerta when she's just nude. That's totally out of Branded to Kill. I mean, his influence has become more apparent throughout his career. Like Down by Law and Strangers in Paradise seem very original, but
hey, you got to keep, pumping it out. So you got to steal from 3 or 4 other movies that are currently in development and then make it your own. But he should have called it. He should have fuck Dead Man. He should have called it "You Stink, Mister." That's like the best title I've ever heard.
Yeah,
That's an awesome title.
but yeah,
oh my God, I'm honestly like I was so like heartbroken when you were talking about that because that movie sounds awesome with Roberto Benigni and it's called "You Stink." I can't imagine how good that movie was.
Have you seen Down by Law?
No, I haven't.
They're all Roberto Benigni and John Lurie are in the Jim
Right.
Jarmusch movie. Yeah,
Right, that's right.
And they're in prison and they escape. Some of his movies are really fucking slow. Like Night on Earth. People really like that movie, but I saw that in New Beverly and I was just like, this is so goddamn slow. Some parts are better than others, but
more like night on Earth. You know what I'm saying?
good night.
Like good night. I like Patterson. The
I
movie's
still haven't
pretty
even
cool, I
seen
think.
that.
It's pretty cool. It's like a movie. Well, this movie has some like deals with like some poetry thing elements to it, but like that movie is like this atmospheric vibe movie, but it's about writing poetry. Kind of cool.
Yeah, I there is a thing at the Getty earlier this year where they had William Blake's original art and poems, and I was looking at all those. So I don't really read any of the poems. I just looked at the pictures, and there's some cool stuff.
Oh wait, he's supposed to be like an actual poet named William Blake.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
so
yes.
in Red Dragon, that movie, like Manhunter,
Yeah.
the big, does he have a tattoo of it, or he has a painting of the house of the William Blake Red Dragon?
He's got it
Yeah, I
on
think
his back.
got
He's got a
it on.
tattoo on his back.
Yeah,
And then he eats the picture of it.
yes.
That's
So,
crazy.
but I watched a Charlie Rose interview, and Jim Jarmusch was saying like, yeah, William Blake's like he's anti-church, and he was like really ahead of his time. He was like a guy who was he wasn't very successful, but then became bigger later on.
Yeah, he was
Good
kind of
for him.
considered a nut, but at the time, he's kind of like a Gnostic in a way, and yeah, and an artist and all that. But yeah, he was, he's like what I won't get too much into William Blake, but John Hurt's character in this film is named John Schofield, who is like the guy who like got in a argument with William Blake and then accused him of sedition, that he had insulted the king, and then they got a warrant out for his arrest and everything. But yeah, he would do these kind of incantations, and he would get these crazy visions and everything. So and some of his paintings, like Ghost of a Flea, which is kind of a famous painting. This is like a thing that he'd seen in a vision while he was doing a seance or something. So he was kind of a
Oh
wild
yeah.
guy.
Oh, and like another movie this really reminds me of is The Lighthouse. Like the way Robert Pattinson is just like shit on the whole time, and he's very passive. And then Nobody, the Native American character, he's kind of like the Willem Dafoe character, like the one who's kind of fucking with him the whole time. But
Leading
they
him
have a
through yeah. Leading
they have
him
a
through the world though.
yeah, they have a complicated relationship. But
Yeah.
Nobody, um, he's funny. He probably has the most good lines in the movie.
I like when he keeps calling bullets white man's metal. That's cool.
That actor was in one other movie we watched, right? Was he in They Live?
Demon Knight.
No.
No, no.
Not cool.
Gary Farmer. He's in Demon Knight. He plays like a sheriff or something in
Oh, okay.
in the Crypt Demon Knight. He's in Ghost Dog. He plays basically the same character, even though it's a different century. And he also says his line, "Stupid fucking white man," and then the Italian gangsters shoot him.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So
I thought
yeah,
you were
he's
gonna
very
say
awesome.
I thought you were gonna say he says stupid fucking black man. It's
No,
just kind
no,
of stuff.
no.
It's been kind of a cool little callback. This guy's just shitting on every race. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
But
yeah. There's a lot of like in jokes to natives. Like that's why they don't have the dialogue subtitled or anything like that.
oh,
And
it's like jokes for native audiences. You're saying, kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
cool.
like in jokes. Yeah, so it's generally really well regarded amongst like natives that have seen it and that are like film buffs. As
Cool.
like one of the best portrayals of
Oh.
in a western. So
I think that's a very 90s thing, like Dances with Wolves. That's when they started trying to make,
Hell, native stories.
cast actual natives.
Oh, right.
Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, smoke signals.
There should have been guy.
That's
Well,
not a
Last of the
Western,
Mohicans
but
was kind of like the last. They were like holding on to the brown face. They're like, let's just give it to the main guy. Let's just make him brown. Everyone else will represent the natives, but
Well, to be fair, that's based on that old book. He's,
Oh, right.
it's pricked for the 1700s. Yeah, so
Okay,
he's the
okay, okay. All right.
guy. But in the early era of westerns, they actually would hire natives, and there was a guy named James. Is it John Youngier or James Youngier? I always get mixed up. But he worked for Cecil B. DeMille as kind of a technical advisor. He was native, but also part black. And they, Pathé, which was a French company, would always get criticisms that they had inauthentic Westerns. So they hired him, and he would make Westerns that had all native casts. He'd write them. He had a native wife. He would direct
Shit.
them. And he's also the first person to do a film on the Osage murders from like Killers of the Flower Moon. 6 months after the perpetrators, or some of them, were arrested, he had already shot and released this film, which is now lost. So,
Oh,
Damn.
Oh, jeez.
but yeah, it
God
really
damn.
early in the early, like in the silent era, they would usually have natives playing themselves, and then unfortunately they move away from that with later ones. But like that guy was half black. He wouldn't tell anyone that. He would only say he was native because he would get more. He felt he'd get better respect because there was a certain, after they'd basically been genocided, there was sort of this, kind of like veneration, the, quote unquote noble savage imagery, and so a lot of America was obsessed with native tribes and everything once they decided that they weren't a threat anymore.
Oh my God. They were like and that after it was like already done, the like atrocity was already done. They're like, remember those guys? Those guys were the best.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
cool. Damn.
and also like I talked to David about doing an episode, and the first movie I pitched him on was Quick and the Dead. And he was like, I'm not the biggest fan of that movie. But Lance Henriksen made this movie and that movie probably like back to back, and he looks almost like the exact same character. He's playing like a really cool badass
He's
in
a good
both
villain in
movies.
this movie.
Except the Quick and the Dead, he's kind of wearing like a biker, like a black leather biker outfit. Not quite authentic, but I don't
Cool.
think that was the intention anyway. So.
Oh yeah, David, I love your I follow you on Twitter.
Oh, good.
You never follow me back. No, that's not what
I
I'm
don't
talking
know who you
about.
are.
I'm just kidding. No,
Tell
I'm
me who
totally
you are.
kidding.
I'll follow you. I
That's
don't
not no, that's not why I said that. But I like your like, oh, this is how they really did it in the Old West tweet. They're like, you think they looked cool in this movie? Well, really, they were wearing these like stupid shirts with like a horsey on it and stuff. I like all those threads that you
Oh
did.
yeah, yeah. I'm also very interested in Old West history and every aspect, and the clothing and everything, and authenticity and stuff. I don't. Rarely will I like dock a movie if it's not like authentic. If I did that, I wouldn't like westerns. Most of
Yeah,
them are very inauthentic. So
of course. But
The
yeah,
movie,
this
hold on.
old. Go ahead, buddy.
The movie he said that was like the most authentic is Ride with the Devil.
I was
with,
gonna ask
like,
that. That's
which
cool.
yeah,
is
that actually has the same costume designer as this film. This one's not quite perfect in terms of the costumes, but yeah, same costume designer as Dead Man.
The Tobey Maguire movie is the
Yeah,
most authentic Western movie
I'd say
ever made.
all around. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, there's earlier ones, but I mean, in terms of like the look, the story, the dialogue, the story, everything. I think overall, it's got its errors, but it's overall.
I didn't also. It's not just Tobey Maguire. Guess who else is in the cast?
Oh,
Jewel.
yeah, he
yeah,
cast Jewel because her teeth are crooked.
yes.
Yeah, she got that snaggle tooth. That's cool.
So it's a pretty good movie. God, is Skeet
Ang
Ulrich
Lee.
in that movie? Who the fuck is in that?
Yeah, Skeet Ulrich.
You want an
Yeah,
authentic Western? Bring in the Chinese, man.
Taiwan.
well,
Taiwanese. Oh, pardon me. Hey,
they're
isn't that? Never mind.
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
don't
Is it? Is it? Do we
I
want
think
it?
it's they're their own country. They make great computer parts. So
It's a cool name.
Lance Henriksen's cool in this movie, and then Michael Wincott, his partner with the long hair, he's awesome. He's in The Crow, of course. What else? I mean, Michael Wincott's in so many movies. John Cribbs is like a big fan of Michael Wincott, and he did a whole thread on all the movies he's in. Like, I never really realized what a good character actor he was because I don't like him in The Crow. So that's like my.
What about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves? Pretty
Is
good.
he in that?
Yeah, he's the sheriff of Nottingham.
No, this is a different guy.
No, he's like a second in command or something.
Oh,
under
nice.
I think in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Okay. Are you sure? No. Yeah.
That's, oh yeah, he's the assistant for what's his fucking name? Bill Clay, Alan Rickman.
Yes, that's right.
I haven't watched that movie since I was a kid. Like that's a fucking.
But he has like
movie.
this is one of the great villains of the 90s, that guy, I would say. I think he's good in The Crow. He's still doing his thing, you know?
Yeah, apparently he improvised most of his dialogue in Dead Man. So, or changed it around or whatever. So,
it's cool.
Anyway.
It seemed like he was having some fun. They have like there's kind of like some dry humor in those things, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
his little rants. Yeah, it's funny.
But it's cool how
Beans.
dude, that's what I'm saying. Lance Henriksen in this movie, like a good movie needs a good villain. Even if he's like this metaphysical villain that doesn't actually ever, there's no like confrontation, but he's so bad that it like elevates the movie, I think.
Well, the Lance Henriksen character fucked his parents, then ate them.
Oh
so
yeah,
that's
right.
That's pretty bad. And then later on, you see him eating Michael Wincott.
Oh, that was so gross. The hand, the bones.
It looked like turkey bones or like turkey drumstick bones that they like fashioned into a human arm.
The kind you get at Disneyland.
It looked hungry. I thought it looked pretty good. I would get that at Disneyland.
Yeah. That's cool.
Just like a child's arm.
Would you try human meat if it was served to you?
Sure.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, there's your answer, folks.
Right on.
Would you?
I'd give it a taste.
I'm going to say no. I don't.
Yeah, what the fuck are you guys talking about? I've been doing a podcast with two guys that would try human meat if it was served.
I mean,
I didn't know that.
If it was like organic, grass-fed, and like came from someone who was willing to do it,
so not you. You're saying you are not an organic.
No,
you are not organic meat.
I want to taste the other side.
In Tokyo, I had horse scalp sashimi, so raw horse scalp, and it was like,
ew. It
was like the fat scraped off a horse's skull.
God damn.
Was it good?
No.
Oh.
You don't want it to be good, honestly, when you try something that crazy.
Yeah, then you got to get horse skull all the time.
Yeah, then you got to be like, fuck, I'm into this now.
You're like, holy moly, where am I going to get that in the States? And what are you going to do?
I told this is almost like, I kind of don't tell this because it's like too upsetting to tell, but like, about like monkey brains?
Yeah, Temple of Doom.
Uh-huh.
But like the real version of it?
Eating a monkey brain? Yes, that is done.
But like, I have a friend who's Vietnamese.
Okay.
And he was telling me when he was in Vietnam, like 10 years ago or something like that, he went to a place and they served monkey brain, but it's live monkey brains. So there's a table with a little hole in it, and they slide it apart, and then they put the monkey in, and then it's like this, and then they close the table around his head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then they cut around his thing and like open its skull up.
Okay.
And then the monkey's alive.
This is a scene in Faces of Death also.
That's okay.
Yes, that is wrong.
There's a chance that my friend is fucking with me and just telling me about a scene from Faces of Death. But it's true. Holy fuck.
I would not try that.
And then they eat it with a spoon out of the head. It makes me so sad. I don't even like talking about it, honestly. I wish I didn't.
You can get brain at any taco truck in LA. Like,
hell yeah, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying, getting brain.
But It's
Yeah.
like, oh, a monkey brain in Vietnam. This is so scary. But then it's like you just go to a fucking taco truck and get brain, or a supermarket, or
Menudo. Yeah.
Well, live brain is that's a little different. I
When
mean,
COVID happened, I like got a bunch of canned goods, and one of the before like everything like the day that COVID was like announced, like the lockdown, I got a bunch of canned goods, and I just grabbed everything I could, and I got like menudo, and so I had like menudo. You know what menudo is? Menudo is brains, cow brains, like canned cow
uh,
brains.
I
So I
thought
had
menudo
That's
was like
soup.
tripe. Isn't menudo like tripe, like the stomach?
uh,
All right, go ahead with
no,
your story. I'll figure it out.
that's it. I just got menudo, and then I never ate it, and then I threw it away because it was too disgusting. I'm looking it up. I might be wrong. I
The
feel like
brain,
David is
the brain is
knows.
cabeza,
It
like
was
head, cabeza.
Oh, okay. It's just stomach. Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, that's
I'm less.
it's tripe, and it's also a soup. But the one you're talking about is cabeza, which head means the head.
Oh, menudo means stomach. Mike, David. This is kind of what the podcast is like normally.
No,
If you want to, you can like start talking about
remember in the
really interesting
movie
things that you know if you want to.
Lance Henriksen steps on that guy's head and his brain squishes out.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
yeah.
It's not. I appreciate that this movie has
Gross stuff.
something that graphic in it, like
It
practical,
also
like gore effect.
there's like no skull. It's like it's just funny. It's just a joke.
Yeah,
It still
like
looks pretty nasty though.
looks like a gummy bear or something.
I like the blood squirting out the nostrils.
Yeah.
It's a good looking fake head.
yeah, it's very convincing. Yeah, the approach to violence in the movie is interesting because it's like it's purposely done in a way to look as like clumsy and not cool as possible. Like they just kind of stand around and I mean it's done in a way that's like I would say it's stylized in its own way because I don't gunfights aren't really like that, but I think there was a purposeful like attempt at not like doing quote unquote action scenes or anything like that. And
Like Gabriel Byrne kind of just stands there and takes like there's like two shots that miss him, and then he just takes a shot right to the neck without even.
Everybody kind of just stands there. Every gunfight is like a guy pointing a gun and then somebody else pulling a gun out and shooting them and then being like, "What the fuck? He shot me? I was just pointing a gun at you, dude." You know what I'm saying?
The
But
thing,
yeah,
the thing I noticed about the gunfights is the guns are so quiet. They sound like little cap guns or something. They sound nothing like revolvers and rifles from that time would sound like.
yeah, you think so?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I think it's like a purposeful, thing on Jarmusch's part. And he later did like a gunfight in Ghost Dog, and he's not the best like action director in the world anyway. So it's probably probably best that he went in a completely different direction on this one.
Yeah,
Um,
he's not trying to like play to something that he maybe he's not is not a strength. It's cool. I thought it's such a cool idea to be shot through a lady and then you're also shot. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff
Yeah,
is cool. There's like a poetry thing about that.
One shot, two kills.
The Israeli army thing about shooting a pregnant woman. Is that what you're talking about, Mike?
No, that was in Sniper.
No, okay, because Israeli army was set. They had shirts for a while that was said one shot, two kills, and it showed a picture of a pregnant woman in
No, I was talking about Sniper with
in a
no,
rifle
yeah.
scope. Yeah,
the woman that shot in this movie is the first Israeli actress to become famous internationally, Millie Avital. That's
I
in
love
the movie.
I love her line, or that this movie has some very good lines in it, and that "Why don't you paint my portrait" is why don't you just paint my portrait is like a good, charming, like meet cute line that is like of the time, I thought. But David, were there portraits back then? Did portraits exist? Okay, cool.
yes, there were portraits.
Just making sure.
What do you think about this muddy town, huh? Machine. Kind of like Shane. Hmm?
Why doesn't
yeah.
why doesn't
Or
he walk on the
Jenga.
sidewalk? Why do they walk through the mud? There's like a wooden sidewalk right there. I don't understand why they don't walk on it. That's just for like getting blown or like sitting in a rocking chair or something, but not for walking.
That's a blowing. Yeah, that's the blowing
Why didn't
side
they
of
have
it.
fucking roads? What's with these Western
Yeah,
towns?
put some asphalt down there.
Well, oftentimes they would, it was people would be throwing oftentimes chamber pots and stuff and out in the street, and then they
Oh,
Spittoons.
yeah, but they would usually lay down boards that you could that you could walk on. So
The town
I
was
think
really nice. You know, they lay down boards on their piles of feces.
yeah, that's the fancy one. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
their night soil, as they called it. Uh, um,
is
but
that what they called it?
Well,
Tight.
it was the old. Were these old West towns this shitty? Because I remember like Crispin Glover being at the beginning being like, "You're going to hell," and it's like this is the old West. This is like a beautiful untouched landscape. This is like an incredible pristine land. But like in movies and westerns and this one, it's like this is a complete shithole. It's like, no,
There's
dude,
no
now it's a shithole.
there's
Talking
no
about
indoor plumbing. I mean, there's shit everywhere.
I mean, if
yeah,
the
but
weather's
you get used to
bad
that. Come on.
and if it's just an industry town,
Though if it's like up north or something like that, I guess.
because aren't they in the Pacific Northwest? If
I
those
thought
natives are,
I thought they were in California because of the redwood trees, but that could also be in the Pacific Northwest.
mm-hmm.
yeah, the tribe at the end is the Makah tribe, and they are in the Pacific Northwest. So
Yeah.
I don't know how far they traveled on that river to get there,
I
but
guess it's like wet and stuff in the Pacific Northwest and a lot, and then that would be gross. I guess the towns would be gross.
yeah, I mean, it all depended. It was a mix of things. Towns could spring up if they're, like a boom town if they'd found silver or gold or something, and you could have something like Tombstone, which had very fancy bar like saloons, and they had brass bands. They had cuisine from all over the world, French cuisine,
Wooden
and
boards
all
on the ground.
what was that?
One of them,
Wood wooden
one of them
boards on the
wooden
ground.
boards.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of them wooden boards
well,
towns.
but then you'd have also a place like Deadwood, which would also have some fancy stuff, and it was like the first town in the United States to have a telephone, I believe. And but Oftentimes if stuff like that sprung up, you'd have all, and it would often be in like illegal camps, Indian land that they weren't supposed to be on in the first place. And so then,
Right.
you'd had all these dregs and get rich quick people who were trying to, that were basically just tearing up the land and stuff. And you'll see stuff like pictures of historical Deadwood, and in the middle of the street, a guy has bought, I guess, a section of land to prospect on. He has a big prospect hole in it, and that's just in the middle of the
Middle of the
street. So,
street.
so yeah, so the places could be pretty bad, pretty nasty. This movie's maybe a little exaggerated in a way in certain elements, but it's kind of the whole point of it. It's like the Europeans or the whites or whatever kind of fucking up the land.
Yeah, they're making it a shithole.
Yeah, and
It's
you get
not.
the
Yeah.
contrast at the end with the Makah village, where it's still muddy and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not as like nasty and gross, and the people are helpful and all that. So,
Yeah.
and even that thing that opens they actually did have stuff like that. What do you call it? The part at the end when he's in the
Yeah, it looks
Like
like
the big thing that opens up.
That thing
yeah,
is so trippy. That's awesome.
pulleys and stuff. Yeah, they actually did have that.
Did they? Oh, I was wondering about that. I'm eating some peyote and walking into that thing. Holy moly!
Dude, could you imagine?
Yes, I tried to.
Uh, um, yes, the peyote. Too. Peyote is also in Young Guns. So don't forget the big peyote scene in that movie, although that would not be considered an acid western, I don't think. But the lady who was like their native technical advisor was a member of the Native American Church, which was started by Quanah Parker, who was basically kind of the basis for Scar and the Searchers. But he had, then went on a reservation and all that. But
Yeah.
it came from the Caddo tribe, and the Native American Church is like a mix of Christianity and Native American spirituality, and they use
Jesus.
use peyote in their rituals. Quanah Parker said the white man goes to his church to hear about Jesus. The native goes to his teepee to talk to Jesus.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
my
cool.
boss used to do that. He used to go to the Navajo Nation reservation, and he would do peyote rituals all night, and he was like seriously into it. He had his wedding out there.
I've been to
Yeah,
a peyote wedding. Yeah.
Did you do peyote?
No, I didn't do it,
Just
but the
bride and
bridal
groom
party
do?
had all done peyote.
What?
They do like these are people that do like ayahuasca ceremonies
Oh, yeah. I
and
gotcha.
stuff in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. But that's crazy, man. That sounds like I've been thinking, what religion is right for me? I think this Native American church is maybe where it's at.
Yeah, they have a legal exemption, so that they are legally allowed to use it in their religious ceremonies. So I
Cool.
get all my hallucinogens from a reservation. I have a lot of native. There's a lot of tribes out here where I live, but they've never gotten peyote. So unfortunately, I've yet to try that.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Have you done peyote, Mike?
I can't remember that bag of green shit like that.
Yeah,
big,
you had a cactus.
What-
You had a
was that
boiled
peyote?
cactus. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
okay,
guys
yeah.
did it all and before I got there and I couldn't do any.
We were in a
But you
mobile
guys went to
home.
the arcade and you had a lot of fun and then you almost got into a car accident. I remember the story.
Yeah,
That's
And
like
you
the
said
traditional peyote journey. I
everything
feel
was everything was like glowing. I remember that was
and
very
everybody
fun.
was barfing
Oh.
and the peyote was
Yes.
really strong.
You had to throw up first before it would. It's my understanding that you had to throw up for it to take effect, but I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes, that's true.
Oh, okay,
That is
yeah. So
true.
everything was
Okay.
like really like glowing. That was all I remember, and it was fun.
Did you throw up, Mike?
Yes, I did throw up. Yes.
Dude, glowing. That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, that's the best. Like Tron or something is what everything looked like.
Oh,
Yeah, it was pretty awesome,
dude. In the like, I'm like very
At
fascinated
the arcade, dude. Imagine that at the
Holy
arcade.
shit.
Golf
I was-
land.
I was thinking
Castroville.
about being out in the
Street
desert,
Fighter,
but
and shit.
in the arcade, forget about it.
Yeah.
Take me to the arcade.
Yeah.
But like, I've been like very fascinated by acid Western things and this peyote thing. And honestly, so much of it has to do with a stupid Simpsons episode because it's like the pepper is like peyote and like he goes on a vision thing. And it's like, that was like the first thing I feel like when I was a kid where I had this idea of like, oh, you have that. But like having things glow in the desert and shit, that sounds like fucking incredible. I want to do that. I want to do the peyote desert traditional thing.
I'm sure they got those reservation things that David was talking about here in California. They do a similar thing with mushrooms here, where like these churches are selling mushrooms and shit. So I imagine they got the peyote. Well, where did your boss go, Wayne? Was that in California or?
I said, oh no, Arizona, Navajo Nation.
Arizona. Oh,
That's a giant native reservation. It's almost like a quarter of the state.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. But
I could ask at the
Very
casino. Maybe they know something. I don't know.
Mushrooms are kind of like almost like essentially kind of legal here in a way. You can purchase mushrooms. Sometimes they'll sell you not the psilocybin ones, a different kind. Don't buy those ones, but you could buy like candy bars and stuff that have like mushrooms.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
So David, those
The French
websites that
ones
sell
are
the candy bars, they're legit.
Right,
Those are
way ahead of
actually
you.
those are mushrooms that you can buy and they'll get you fucked up and everything.
I've never tried them myself. I kind of stopped doing mushrooms.
Oh, okay, understandable.
But I've heard other people say they work. I've heard people say they didn't work for them. So I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
the
of them I heard they're
concern. I
from
don't wanna-
Canada because it's decriminalized there. But I don't know. I saw a guy on Hollywood Boulevard selling. He's like mushroom chocolates. It's like, just chocolate bars. But I don't know. A lot of them, they could be nootropics or some bullshit.
Yeah, who knows? But there is some sort of religious thing here that like there's some
Oh,
churches
in Oakland.
in Oakland that are selling. Yeah, I mean I'm
I
right
bought
here. I should go check it out.
mushrooms at a gas station in Long Beach. That where they Felt like mushrooms to me.
From the gas station, or like some dude selling them at the
A
gas
guy
station?
sorry, a guy behind, or like it was
Nice.
like behind, but they sold like real mushroom. They were selling like lion's mane and stuff. So I was, but they also were selling like Delta 8, the Delta 8 stuff.
THC. Yeah.
Yeah, they're out there
So I was like, hey
because
man, you got the real thing? And he's like, he didn't say anything. He went and got a big basket, and I picked out things. I was like a toy store. It was awesome.
Hell yeah.
So, but peyote, what? So is peyote like hard to get a hold of or something, or like
I could not even tell you where we
David's
got that
saying he
bag.
knows all
you
these
can grow.
native people, but
Well,
they
you
can't
can
even
grow it.
have it.
My boss used to grow it on Sunset Boulevard, right in front of the
What's his
office.
name and what is the company that he owns?
Where are these cactuses?
His name is Sylvester Stallone, and he works at
Hollywood.
Sylvester Stallone
Rocky
has a job.
Pictures
Yeah,
Incorporated.
coming up with
Yeah,
Richard Gere stories. It's like a company that comes up with stories about Richard Gere.
trying to think if there's anything else in Dead Man we should talk about. I mean, we didn't talk about Robert Mitchum. This is his last film role. He's good. He plays the heavy. He's the boss. I kind of got there. Kind of is like a Bruce McCullough Kids in the Hall vibe to this movie. Like when he would make those sketches, like Sausages, or those film sequences where it's like a European art house movie but a comedy.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like the town of Machine is kind of like that. You're saying?
Yeah, and the way it's just horrible, and there's like skulls and coffins, and the guy from the Butthole Surfers is getting blown with a gun. He's drawing his gun to the woman's head. It's funny.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, because, you know, the movie is, I think, maybe a bit pretentious in ways, or however you want to put it. But I feel that if you, as long as there's like a humor to it, like you don't feel it's taking itself so like seriously, I think that can diffuse a lot of, the more, flighty
It's
stuff. Or, I love the Billy Bob Thornton. I
yeah,
love his part. uh just the way he plays it, like, just he pops up in Tombstone too, and he pops up in that Steven Seagal movie. This is kind of that time before Sling Blade, right? And he kind of was always like, he'd pop up in these small roles in movies and then just do these great parts. So I love the way he reacts after he gets shot in the foot.
yeah.
Oh
He was in
yeah.
a movie I
It's like
liked when I
God
was a.
damn.
He talked about beans. Yeah, he's in a movie I liked when I was a kid called Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town. Like a horrible movie I used to watch at like USA Up All Night, and I was like, this is so funny. These Chopper Chicks are in Zombie Town. It's just one of those like like straight to video fake grindhouse movies. But yeah, he's hilarious. And then Jared Harris is cool, and he's the English guy in that scene. I like how they're just kind of like touching Johnny Depp, like they're touching his hair, how you get it so soft, and he's like,
Oh
"I
yeah.
want him." And then Iggy pops in a dress.
Yeah.
It's
And these cut sort of like, I don't like the term revisionist, but these sort of uh, style westerns, they always like to put like a dude in a dress. Like in the original script of like Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, there's a scene where Pat Garrett or where Billy the Kid wears a dress, or like the Missouri Breaks, or the Northfield, Minnesota Raid has a part where a guy's in a dress, or Jesse James gets in a dress to escape. Sam Fuller, when he did I Shot Jesse James, wanted to have I think he wanted to have Jesse James as a bisexual wearing, who would wear a dress during robberies and stuff. Obviously, that was way too far back to get away with that kind of thing. But he has a funny quote about that.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a thing that they always like to put in movies. Um,
Yeah, Cat Williams talks about that a lot.
and then the,
Talks
the
about you have to
cannibal
wear a
the
dress.
cannibalism, like in that one western with Guy Pearce,
oh,
Ravenous.
Ravenous.
The
Yeah.
part. Oh yeah, I never seen Ravenous.
They always have to have a little like cannibalism, and we talked about how like S. Craig Zoller always has to have cannibalism in his movies.
He's obsessed. I've read every Western thing that he's done. Yeah, I think outside of one of them, every single one has native tribes that are cannibals, and one of them has two different tribes. That was super rare. I think it was only really amongst the Tonkawa tribe, and the other natives hated them because they were cannibals, so they tried to wipe them out. But the cannibals, the Tonkawa, actually teamed up with the Texas Rangers to help wipe out the Comanches. So,
Cool.
but I
It's the,
posted a thing
the
on
hockey
Twitter
team.
that a guy
Just
named
kidding.
Boone Helm in the 1850s, and he has a quote about how there's many a time I've killed my traveling companions and feasted on their flesh or something like that. So he was a known like he'd travel
Ooh.
with people, kill them, and then eat them. So he got lynched. But uh, anyway,
Yeah.
It
Another
sounds like
thing
a
I,
lynch, and I actually would be. I'm kind of in support of, to be honest. Normal,
yeah,
most of them I don't like.
there's I
But
like the scene in where Lance Henriksen just like fires his gun out there. He gets like shot with an arrow, so he fires his gun. Then the next scene you see Johnny Depp like cradling this like baby deer, this little doe with like a bullet hole in it, implying I guess Lance Henriksen shot the deer.
mm,
But outside of that, we keep seeing all these like horrific violent acts. We see like a village burned, or we see like people shot with arrows. We're seeing corpses, and I couldn't really figure out like, is he implying that those atrocities are committed by other characters in the movie, or
I think
I
it's just
wasn't sure.
I think it's just supposed to be, just white American culture uh overall. I had never even put together that it was possible that Lance Henriksen shot the little deer. I just
yeah,
figured it
me
was
neither.
some white dude shot it. But that's actually interesting.
But is Lance, because I've been thinking about this, like, because Lance Henriksen is, what does he represent versus what the native, his like native guide represents? Because he's like being led by the native guy. Seems a little large for a Native American, by the way, of the time. He says this guy's like fucking fat and stuff. But I never did that exist? The fact?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, it did.
I'll find it and repost it. There was a chief who was like even fat amongst our time.
Oh, hell yeah. You need to do a thread
Ooh,
about fat Native
yeah.
Americans.
Well, that's
But so
also a
like he's
thing
yeah, okay.
in the Scorsese movie.
Oh, cool.
They're
I
eating
want to be a
sugar
fat
and
native.
candy, and
Dude, in the Everglades, like I remember when I was a kid, like pulling over, driving, because I'm from Florida, driving through the Everglades and pulling over, and like some native people selling like sugar cane and stuff. Maybe they're just chomping on sugar cane all day. But so he's being like led by the native, his guide, and then he's being followed by Lance Henriksen, and then at the end they shoot each other as he's drifting away. So what is that? Like if Lance Henriksen is also this like kind of force of evil and nature that is just following him, always around him, but he doesn't quite interact with him. But maybe he represents the white man, you know,
There's probably something
something
in there
there.
about him being a cannibal in the sense of like devouring your own, or something like
Like
that.
humanity, yeah, like eating,
Yeah,
like white
but
men are like cannibalizing their people, humanity and like living creatures and part of Earth, and they're cannibalizing themselves because we're all like the same, everybody here is the same.
well,
yeah,
We're all, you know what I'm saying? Like
I'm better than everything in the nature.
besides,
I see a tree and I just piss on it because I'm like, I'm better than you, stupid tree.
just to like prove a point to the
We
tree.
I
I
have,
get
could,
we
you.
have conquered nature.
yeah, I'm kind of like an oil baron. It's just I just want to rape the land and die, and then that's it. I think that's a
I
good
mean,
way to
that's
live.
cool.
I'm, I didn't realize there are alternatives, but I will consider them.
No, I think you got
It's
to figure it out.
just, let's
yeah.
get it done. Let's just burn all the oil and fuck it. I got
The,
places to go quickly.
the Earth will be fine. We'll eventually kill ourselves off, and the
Humanity.
Earth will be fine. It's a big
Why do they?
rock. You can't destroy a rock.
Yeah, it's all just a rock at the end of the day when you
One
think
big
about it.
giant rock with a molten middle.
Ooh. Oh, I thought you said, or
Even
I
if
thought you were
we
saying
nuke
malted. That
even if
sounds
we
good.
nuke the entire landscape, the planet's gonna be fine. Just us are gonna
The
die.
rock.
Yeah, it's a rock. It ain't gonna. You can't nuke a rock.
I
It's a
have you
good
been to
rock.
Mars lately, Mike? I think there's a way to
Mars is fine. Mars
to
is
kill.
That
to
shit
kill
used to
all
have
life.
water on it, dude.
Whatever.
But I don't think it. I don't know if it
It's
was
still
any.
there.
I don't know if
Somebody
it was any
nuked it.
behavior, but this is the plot of Species 2, I believe, a movie we did
Yeah.
recently. I'm trying to think of their other character. I mean, those two sheriff guys show up. It's funny how like these guys, like Robert Mitchum hires these three gunslingers to go after him, and then he puts out a wanted poster. So then everyone starts going after him, and then he starts killing the people who are trying to kill him, and then his wanted poster gets longer.
Yeah,
It's
that's cool.
funny.
Yeah, funny. It is like written comedically.
Yeah, Rosenbaum brought up this idea that it's almost like the way like an executive would hire like a screenwriter, and it's an exclusive thing, and then they find out that he's also hiring these other people too. You know what I mean? Like, like they're supposed to be exclusively getting him, but no, we'll give it to these guys too, and whatever. So, um,
That's
but
Hollywood, yeah.
have you guys ever seen The Lone Ranger, the one with Johnny Depp and speaking of cannibals? Uh,
No,
I
that's
didn't
on
watch
my
the whole
list.
thing. It's not my style, but Gore Verbinski, it's a little.
You like
That's
it?
when Johnny Depp started being like cute, post Jack Sparrow. Like, I'm so funny.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like a big Hollywood blockbuster version of Dead Man in a way. Because in that he gets shot and resurrected by this native friend who he doesn't understand, and he's a dork. It opens on a train. It has a
Army
cannibal
Hammer,
villain.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It has a cannibal villain who who cuts out a
Got,
guy's heart and eats
it's
it
got
and
a
stuff.
cannibal hero too. Army Hammer.
It has a guy wearing a
Army,
dress too.
he eats some Army Hammer didn't eat a person or something.
He didn't eat any women. He carved them and then said he had fantasies of eating them.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually, to be honest. So,
Uh,
all right, my mistake. That sounds cool. Is that movie good, too? Do you like it?
I enjoy parts of it. I couldn't recommend it to anybody, but there's parts of it that I enjoy.
So
It's
fucking
got a good-
long and like
Yeah.
Yeah, why are these dumb movies so long? I'm okay with dumb movies. I
I told you my theory, Adam, which is if movie tickets are so expensive now, they're like $22 or whatever, 25 for IMAX. It's like you can't go see a 90-minute little comedy or
yeah, things
something.
are pretty
You got to
fucked
see
up.
a big fucking movie with like 5 climaxes and visual effects and a giant cast. And that's what they feel because there's no price difference on movie tickets, which there kind of should be.
Oh, that's a good idea.
This is why the movie
That's the
business
solution.
is like movie theater business is just falling apart because it used to be like a thing you did when you were bored. You're just like, fuck it, I'll see a movie. Now it's like, I gotta go spend $80 and
It's like
drive
you're going
and
to Disneyland or
park.
something.
When I can just watch it at home, usually.
But that's a good idea. The price tiers for like a 90-minute movie, you'd be like,
The problem is they're gonna make like Marvel movies like $40, and then a little indie movie will be like $25. So they'll just raise prices.
yeah. Hey, I got to my wife is coming home from a work trip with our baby. I got to like go deal with it. So I got to step away.
What's your rating?
Are we doing we're doing ratings on this?
Well, you're about to leave.
It's embarrassing to do ratings when there's guests.
Oh, okay.
Well, in my opinion, just because I feel like we're like, hey, rate this. I don't know. Give us your opinion. It's fine. I can do it. I can handle it. I would give it maybe, I don't know, 4.5.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
take care of your family.
Oh, just dropping that
fun.
bombshell, and then you guys clean it up. All right. Sorry,
Let me know who you are on Twitter. I'll follow you.
Okay. All right. I will.
Yeah, Adam, what's your username on Twitter? Tell the whole audience.
My username is Adam Bowers with a U instead of a second A. So it's like a dumb Bowers. Get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's on on the profile page for our podcast.
But I was just busting your balls before, by the way. I didn't mean, I felt I thought I was like it sounded like I was saying like
David,
they
what's
follow
your
you. So yeah,
Twitter
what's
handle?
yours? More importantly.
Let's do some
Uh,
plugs. Let's get some fucking
All right.
followers.
See you later, man. Nice talking with you.
I'm
Later.
David Lambert Art. Or you could just look up West. What is my name on there now? Westerns in the Old West, I think. I used to just have my name and I would post like my new drawings and stuff. And I was like, I don't know if this is good for like the Randolph Scott fans. So I went with the most generic name for a page about Western movies and Western history. So
Yeah, I feel like I retweet you a lot. I don't know how many people, you know, listen and follow, but it's an overlap.
I don't know anything about Twitter, but I followed you.
oh oh
I don't
oh
really
cool.
mess through. Yeah.
I'll look at all the names for the podcast and follow everybody involved.
The yeah, it sucks this movie bombed so hard because it's like Jim Jarmusch really is pushing himself to another level, even if he's taken all these great ideas from other people's screenplays. But this cast, it's like, damn, Harvey Weinstein, you couldn't just sell the movie off the cast, like. But it was a
Yeah.
different time. You had to print these 35mm prints and mail them, and it's not like today where they just download them directly to the theater.
Yeah, exactly. It plays for 1 week and then goes straight to streaming.
Yeah, I saw that Juror #2 movie. It's gone. It's done 1 week. And it's Clint Eastwood, you know. He's made some good westerns. But you know, it's a movie. It was like it's fine. It would have made decent money back in the day, but no one I think like they can't even afford to market movies anymore. So it's like really fucked up.
Yeah.
It's something like 75 million. Like imagine like Dead Man, $75 million marketing campaign. Would not.
That would be like burning money. That would be the biggest anti-capitalist statement. A black and white Western.
They did it with the Joker, the fucking musical that no one likes. So yep. I hope the next big Western that come out, of course, is Horizon Chapter 2. We're all awaiting Kevin Costner's magnum opus.
Yeah, yes. I didn't like the first one, but I am still gonna see the next one. I'm still kind of looking forward to it, but no, it wasn't big on that one.
So like as far as 90s Westerns, it's like it is Unforgiven, Tombstone, and Dead Man, pretty much. Are there other hidden gems that we're missing out on?
Well, Ride with the Devil, as you already mentioned.
Yeah, Ride of the Devil. And then it's not a Western. Is All the Pretty Horses good? The Billy Bob Thornton.
That also got screwed up by the Weinsteins. So, but I haven't seen that in years. So, but yeah, it was recut and everything. So, yeah. So they've done a lot of bad stuff.
And then Billy Bob Thornton, like he really had a hit with Sling Blade, but then it was like he got fucked over in All the Pretty Horses and then pretty much gave up directing and just was like, I'm just gonna act.
Yes, yeah. I think he directed one other movie after that, maybe. I could be wrong.
It's something like Cadillac Killers or something.
Yeah, some of the Cadillac.
Something like that. But yeah, we always give ratings on these movies because we're on Letterboxd. Are you on Letterboxd?
No, not really. No.
Secretly?
Yeah, I don't think I have a public one. I sometimes I'll just, make a list for myself to refer to, but no, I'm not really on there. I'm not active on there.
I had to start using it because I just couldn't remember all the stupid movies I watched. And it was a nightmare to like update it, but now it's all set up and it's weird. Like it's kind of ruining movies because this director said like after like a screening, he'll be like, make sure you like our movie on Letterboxd. And like he's an Uber driver.
I really should use it more often because whenever I go to visit my parents, I'll usually start drinking with my dad. We'll both get drunk and just watch whatever 50s westerns or 40s westerns. And we're oftentimes like, we can't remember if we've seen the movie. And we get about like 75% of the way through, and then we're like, oh, we've seen this one. God damn it. So there's a lot of westerns that I've forgotten. So
I
I
don't know
probably
which I don't know which Bud Bittaker Randolph Scott movies I've seen anymore. I don't know if I've seen all of them or not because they're so similar, you know. And I
yes.
watched
Yeah, sometimes even the title sometimes I have to really think about which title belongs to which movie. So
uh but yeah, I like Dead Man, you know, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. It the other thing we didn't talk about is Robbie Mueller's photography is so good. The movie just looks amazing. And then Neil Young's score. So apparently when he would watch the movie and just improvise guitar,
It seemed like that, definitely.
but it works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. It fit the movie.
I like the score. It gets in parts it gets a little annoying for me, but I do
Mhm.
like it. I mean, that's another thing that's a kind of a common thing of these type of, whatever counterculture westerns or whatever you want to call them, is like the singer-songwriter score. Obviously, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, it wasn't scored, Leonard Cohen didn't do the score. They just used his songs that were already recorded on one of his albums. But like Little Big Man has John Hammond. The Hired Hand has Bruce Langhorne. Obviously Nick Cave with Assassination of Jesse James and Proposition.
Yeah, Zachariah.
Um,
That's more of like ridiculous, right?
oh yeah. But
The
Walker has
Rock.
Joe Strummer. Uh, uh,
Yeah,
or
but
so
also it's like Ennio Morricone in the Sergio Leone movies kind of started that rock guitar kind of sound, right?
yeah, a
Like,
little bit of that, like kind of almost like surf rock kind of thing. So, but and that one too is the main theme to A Fistful of Dollars is basically just a reworking of an arrangement that Ennio Morricone had done for this folk singer named Peter Tevis, who was covering uh, Woody Guthrie's Pastures of Plenty. So if you listen to Pastures of Plenty, then you listen to that guy's cover, and then you listen to Fistful of Dollars. Fistful of Dollars and that guy's cover are like the same exact like orchestration. So
yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's uh that's crazy, but it's not surprising. You know, everybody's taken from each other, so that's kind of a big thing in westerns. Like one thing about like Quick and the Dead I find interesting is that even though it's like totally historically inaccurate, ridiculous, totally unbelievable, it has all these western tropes kind of like in a blender, and it's like I kind of find the western tropes to be interesting just on their own. Just these like things you keep seeing and hearing in other movies, you know.
yeah, I like it when they play around with the trope or try to subvert it or breathe new life into it. Like even Sam Peckinpah would say he loved cliches. Like the director's job is to love the cliche so much he wants to make it real. It's like you use the cliche uh, uh, because the audience can identify with it immediately, but then you subvert it in a way. And that's something I always post about too, is just the way these ideas have kind of developed or when movies take from other movies and all that. And I don't dislike The Quick and the Dead. I like it okay. I just don't know if I have a lot to say about it. But maybe if I watch it again with that in mind, I'll have more to say. So maybe we can do that down the road. But no, I mean that's part of the the fun of it. And this movie has got a lot of that type of stuff too. I'm not going to break all that down, but it repeats a lot of the same kind of things that seen in other westerns of this kind of style. But I do feel that overall, outside of Jim Jarmusch's pretty egregious theft, I think that's borrowing from movies that already exist is okay. Borrowing from like movies that don't exist yet, that's kind of shitty, I think. But whatever. But I do feel overall this movie has a very unique feel. It is in many ways a very original take on the Western.
I heard True Romance. So Roger Avery wrote a script called Pandemonium Reigns, and he's working with Tarantino. He's like, you got to read this script I wrote. And then Tarantino was like, dude, I liked it so much, I just rewrote it. And I call it's called True Romance now. And then Roger Avery like read it and like cried, but said it was so good. He was like, you could have it. So I don't know, like
that's what happened with the Butch sequence in Pulp Fiction too. I don't know if it came from that script. That also came from Roger Avery's script. And but I mean, he paid him for it and he credited him. But they had a fight because of the beginning of the movie says written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, and he's like, "Well, not all the way, dude." So
yeah. So this
but they're
is what
now. So
I'm sure it happens in Hollywood with studios and professionals too. Like even not just indie guys. So it's tough, because you want to make your movie to have the best idea. So you're just like, I'm fucking stupid.
Alex Cox has gone on record like he couldn't talk to Jim Jarmusch anymore after he'd seen what he'd taken from Zebulon. He's like, even the studios don't work that way. He tried to encourage Rudy Wurlitzer to sue him, but Wurlitzer's kind of like a peaceful sort of devout Buddhist guy. So he's like, no, he was just sad that their friendship ended over it. Yeah, when it was going to be made by Jim Jarmusch, when they were talking about it, the Mountain Man script, the Zebulon, it was going to star Tom Waits as the Mountain Man, which would have been pretty cool. I think. I think that's better casting for a Mountain Man than Richard Gere. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we should wrap this up. It's been fun. Everybody follow David on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. What do you got? Anything you're working on, or you want to talk plans?
No, just follow my Twitter. If you like westerns or Western history, I post like kind of stuff from the whole genre. I post about the relationship between the two, what they get right, what they get wrong, and
behind the scenes stuff. You read a lot of like books about the making of movies too, and you like post little
or excerpts. But I mean, with like archive.org kind of like not being what really.
Oh, right.
That's cut into a lot of it of my ability to just kind of read one interview with like Anthony Mann from like a book full of like director interviews or something. So, but I oftentimes if I'm appearing on a podcast, I'll do the reading and then I'll pick things out that I can then talk about on Twitter and everything. So I think I feel anyone who likes westerns should follow me. I think I have the best Twitter page about westerns. So, tooting my own horn here.
Damn, dude. I don't know any other one. So yeah, you got the best one in my opinion. All right, guys. I don't know what movie we're gonna do next week, but something I pick and I like, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, thanks for doing the podcast, David. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, hopefully I didn't kill the vibe too much.
No, not at all. No.
It's tough for our show to have guests. We don't really do it often, but a big thing is just like you being in California makes it like so much easier. Like most people are on the East Coast and it's so hard to coordinate time zones.
Yeah, and if you do want to do the quick and the dead, I'm down to do it. You know what I mean? I won't have to do the same like level of research or anything. So, you know,
It's not really about research on our show. It's like just talking about the movie, but we kind of talked a little bit about it. So I don't know. I'm down.
I did
for
a
any
bunch of
movies.
research on the guns, but I don't think we have a time.
Oh, what did you know about the guns?
Well, this movie has basically every cool Western gun from 1850 to 1900, minus shotguns, and that's my favorite part of the movie. And if you want to do Mike's gun corner, I can go over probably the one most historically important gun in this movie.
Do it, because David knows a lot about guns too.
That is the Colt Single Action Army. That's the first gun that Johnny Depp picks up on the bed, and then also Lance Henriksen carries a nickel-plated one. This is like the most iconic sidearm in all of Westerns. It's called the Peacemaker, the gun that won the West. It's in every Western movie you've seen. Made by Colt, single action, meaning you got to pull back the hammer every time you try to shoot it. And Army, because it was made for the Army. It was used in the Army. 6-round capacity, 45 long Colt it's chambered in. And this was also used by real cowboys. Jesse James, Wild Bill, and also Patton famously had one that had ivory grips on it. So that's probably the most historically important gun in this movie.
David, you talked about this gun in Westerns. It's in a lot of movies, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
But it's sometimes used in movies before it's invented.
yeah, it's this gun and the Winchester 92 are the most common guns that you'll see in Westerns, because the Colt Single Action Army has basically been in production since its invention, outside of a few gaps like for World War II and stuff. So it was very widely available, and guns that predate it that were not cartridge weapons were there was no gun reproduction market, so they had to be antiques, and they could be potentially very dangerous. They didn't accept blanks very well. And same thing with the Winchester 92 was also still like in production a lot, and it you know it was chambered, and they had like the 5-in-1 blank round, so they took the blanks easier. So sometimes if a movie predates 1873, though it wasn't widely available to 75, they would they just add these things to make it look like a cap and ball pistol, you know.
But they had the predecessor in the movie too, right? The Colt, I can't remember which one that is also a cap and ball, right?
Yeah, they have an 1860 Army.
Yeah, right.
Army pocket, and then an 1849 pocket Colt.
I like those pockets, man. I never really seen those or even really thought of those before. Those are really cool. I like those. Reminds me of like a snub nose pistol.
Yeah. They would then, once the cartridges came out, like basically after the Civil War, they would take those guns and drill through the cylinders. They take it to a gunsmith and then make them to where they could accept cartridges.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so you'll see that in a lot of ones, and then they add the little ejector thing on the side.
Right.
Pretty authentic guns. There's Gabriel Byrne has a Smith and Wesson Schofield. There's some Henry rifle from
the 18th, the Golden Boy, and you mentioned the Yellow Boy Winchester, right?
Yeah, the 66, and then the Winchester 73, and they also have Sharps.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yep.
The only thing that I would say is an anachronism is the movie's basically supposed to be the 1870s. That would make the most sense with the shooting of the buffaloes and everything. But in the flashback where nobody gets like hit on the head when he's a kid by the British soldiers, I believe they have like a 1874 Sharps, like probably about 20 years before they should. Plus that shot always looks bad. The kid doesn't react well to getting hit.
It's a bad hit. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, that Sharps rifle that Lance Henriksen had with the scope on it, did they actually have scopes like that back then? I mean, I know that was like a special rifle that had special sights on it, but did they really have scopes like that then?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how common that would be, but yeah, they had
hunting
form of scope.
Sure, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and that whole storyline about him going to England, being brought to England and stuff, that would happen to natives, and then oftentimes they'd come back to their tribe and tell these stories, and he gets ejected from his tribe because they don't believe it. But oftentimes the tribes would be like, "This guy's insane," and then they'd kill him. They do that to like their own chiefs and stuff, because they'd come back with these stories of England, or European, countries, that these cities and stuff that just they were like, "What in the fuck are you talking about?" So that's like
A
a
city.
little tidbit in there.
Yeah, I mean, it is, of course, incomprehensible based on their life experiences to imagine all that other.
They hadn't invented the wheel yet.
Yes, yeah, they would have those I can't remember what they're called now. But yeah, they would have those long poles
Just
with like
drag them.
yeah, with like buckskin or something. Often before they had the Spanish introduced the horse, they would use dogs for that. So
Interesting. Like sled
So, yeah,
dogs, kind of, but
sled dogs,
obviously
right.
they're not gonna be huskies here. It's too hot.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be so hard to make a Western accurate. Just so difficult because of so much of the iconography is so tainted already. Like all the old Westerns, everything is, and all the guns, and it's just money, and it's just, you have to build it, and all the costumes. It probably just can drive you crazy making a movie like this and trying to
Yeah,
do a good job. But
yeah. There's an expectation of how things look, and I think oftentimes when people make westerns, or at least in the past, they still no, it is still like this for a lot of them. Uh, they basically are just kind of looking at other westerns, you know, uh, for their costumes or their look, as opposed to like actual in-depth research. And there's so much stuff about that even I don't like really know, like women's clothing and stuff. Like I'm not an expert in all that type of stuff, but
plus that, you were talking about this on the Horizon podcast with James Hancock, but just like a woman wearing makeup, like purple makeup and shit, like, but it's like actresses, they don't want to be seen without makeup. So I don't, it's such a tricky balancing act. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I posted the quote from like Orson Welles, where like Peter Bogdanovich wanted to show him like a late era John Ford movie, and he's kept making fun of like the ladies' outfits. So Bogdanovich just turned it off. He couldn't deal with it. But he makes the comment that yeah, with westerns or period films in general, they never can get the women's clothing like even close to right, just because of that kind of
it's
that
not
kind of
flattering. It's not,
oh,
it's like, what are you going to do? Make a movie with ugly women? I mean, come on, this is Hollywood. We got to make money. So
yeah. The most is you just got to get Jewel with like a one messed up tooth or something. So, but people, like I was saying, people have expectations. That's why when I do say Ride with the Devil, I consider it maybe kind of the overall, most authentic Western. They're always kind of like the Tobey Maguire movie, the Skeet Ulrich one with Jonathan Brandis, and Jewel. Uh, uh, but I mean, the West was really more so that of like these just young guys in their 20s, just shooting each other to death. Whereas in a Western, you want to see a Lance Henriksen or a Lee Marvin or something. You want a guy with grit and wrinkles who's got mileage on him. You don't want Tobey Maguire. But
right. That's a good point. They're always,
yeah, Ride with the Devil has a point. For casting that way. But yeah,
it's
sorry,
like
go on.
Braveheart. William Wallace is in his early 20s. He's not a 45-year-old Mel Gibson.
Well,
He's
fortunately, that's the only historical error in that movie.
the Patriot, like, yeah. But that
The man
I was
Liberty
Deadwood.
Balance. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. What about Deadwood? Is that accurate in any way? Please.
In a lot of ways, but kind of everything about it is exaggerated in a way that I think is good, because they're clearly looking to history, but they're creating their own world around it. They're not trying to just be, just a perfect recreation. So the dialogue is exaggerated, not only in terms of the profanity, although most of those words existed, but also just how like Shakespearean and it is. And you know, westerns often outside of like True Grit and stuff don't really portray the dialogue. They oftentimes don't portray it like these are people that would only be really probably reading the King James Bible and Shakespeare and stuff. Like, you know, they had a better vocabulary than we'd expect, but it exaggerates it a lot. And in terms of like costumes, the costumes are a little like they're funny because they're like some of the costumes are anachronistic, like they're from a few decades later. But then a lot of the costumes are also like from decades way earlier. Like it's really oftentimes looks more like the 1850s. And of course, they could still be wearing their old clothes, but it's just sort of a mix. And I think that's purposeful in some ways. I don't think the anachronisms were, but it just kind of creates this world of a clash between standard kind of Western iconography, you know, uh what's his name? Dan Doherty's like Bonanza cowboy hat, but then next to like you know, E.B. Farnham, who's got like a top hat and frilly sleeves and stuff, and something probably that'd be more appropriate for like the 1840s or 50s. But you know, but it's just kind of making the point of the clash, which is what I like about studying Western history. One of the main things I like about it is trying to impose like European Victorian values onto like this insane frontier, you know, with a lot of people that don't want you there, you know, going out into the wilderness and trying to impose like Victorian standards onto you know, everyone. And Deadwood portrays that too, obviously.
I always like tell my girlfriend, I'm like, you should like, she makes fun of me for like watching Westerns. And I'll go like, no, you don't understand. This is like, it was a frontier. This never happened in history. The country expanded. They're going out West. But then I think about like every female character in a Western. It's like, oh yeah, they're just slapped, beaten, killed, raped. Just like, it's so brutal. It's so brutal for women in that time. They're such subservient characters.
I have a question about that, David, that you might know. How did prostitutes back then not just get pregnant all the time? Did they have like condoms or something, or how did that work?
Yeah, there were sheepskin condoms actually, and I believe
Old school.
yeah, and I believe the guy who started Goodyear tires had made condoms previously. I could be wrong,
Fascinating.
but then they had abortions and stuff. Usually it was like you know, shooting up a bunch of like stuff up there, you as opposed to like whatever. We don't need to get in the topics of abortion, but
Gotcha, like a douche, basically.
Chemical.
I don't know.
So, yeah,
Chemical
so,
spray.
but yeah, so that was basically how they would prevent that. So.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. Sorry to bring that up. I just thought I was always wondering that.
No, and then also they're like their cleanness is they tell the guy to skin it back because most people weren't circumcised, and then they would wash their genitals in I'm not using genitals on this podcast too. Wash their dicks in these things that they would call actually Peter Pans. And that predates Peter Pan. I don't think Peter Pan's named after that, but they were called Peter Pans.
It's like a spa for your dick. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you worry that the cleaning process might, you know, something might happen during that, and you don't even get to do anything.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of interesting aspects to prostitution back then. So
yeah, we can go all night. There's so many questions about Westerns, you know. I don't know shit about, I've seen a lot of Westerns, but I don't know the history. I try to make sense of it, but it's very helpful and informative. And everybody follow David Lambert, chat with him, ask questions, annoy him. But yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know when we met at Law and Order, I kind of might have pressured you into having me as a guest, but
no, I wanted to. I just
okay.
I don't want to be. It's just so difficult with us and our schedules, like getting all the people together and inviting a guest. But
I'm glad
Yeah.
you're here. I had a great time. You're awesome.
We love
Okay.
westerns. We haven't been doing westerns on the show, but there's so many westerns I love.
Yeah, I'll try to find some. I'll try to make a list of some really weird, fucked up ones, maybe, even if they're not the greatest. But we might enjoy talking about them. So,
The thing is with me, I've seen most of the cult movies and the fucked up ones, but I haven't seen a lot of the like. There's like a bunch of Anthony Mann ones I still haven't seen. Like I still haven't seen Winchester 72 or 70.
oh,
Is it 72 or 73? Like that one you talk about all the time. It's like I've seen Far Country, but
I'd say check it out. I think it's one of the most entertaining, purely entertaining
I
westerns ever made.
keep
I think it's free on YouTube.
I keep
So
waiting for it to play at like New Beverly or something. Like there's a maybe I'll show again because like movies that get new Blu-rays tend to play at like revival houses like a month or
Oh
two
yeah,
before
yeah,
it happens. Like
yeah.
Law
'Cause
and
it's been part
Order,
of Criterion, right?
we we saw this movie Law and Order. It's the first what's his face?
Wyatt.
Wyatt Earp movie
Oh, okay.
from the 30s and then like a week or two later they're like there's a new Blu-ray of Law and Order.
Oh, nice. That's convenient.
So it's
Yeah, they just
interesting.
recently restored it. I've always seen it in like very bad quality prints, so that's why I was like, I have to go see it at the New Beverly because I know they had done it for some film festival before that, like the TCM festival or something. I don't remember months back. So
Yeah, it's awesome. Like these Western, but the more Westerns I watch, the more I see it's like the same. Every decade has like the same version of Wyatt Earp or a different version of Wyatt Earp appropriate for their decade. So it's cool. But you kind of realize like, oh, they kind of did run out of stories in a way. And these gunfights and these gunslingers, this could not have been that common or as they make it out in the movies. So
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it wasn't as yeah, when you find out like Billy the Kid probably like killed maybe like four people,
whoa.
maybe involved in like six murders, but that was a lot of people shooting the same person. Yeah, that stuff maybe gets a little exaggerated, but hey, we want the big body counts. But there are a lot of great stories that they just haven't tackled and stuff. But it's always fun to see them do a new take on the story because Law and Order couldn't be any more different from like My Darling Clementine, even though they're both great movies in their own rights, but they're very different, doing very different things. So,
All right, man. Later.
all right.
Thank
Good
you.
night, guys.